Hi, this is Colin from the History Pilgrim. I hope you've been enjoying my videos and I'd be interested to hear your comments. Be sure to like and share with a friend. I have another interesting historical travel video. I hope you enjoy. The Biltmore House is a sprawling estate located in the mountains of western North Carolina, which holds the title of the largest privately owned house ever built. Built by George Washington Vanderbilt II in the 1890s, the Biltmore was not just a house, it was a symbol of extravagance of the Gilded Age, which put many European palaces to shame. This mansion not only redefined exactly what a house could be, but led to the transformation of the small village of Asheville, North Carolina, into a thriving mountain town. Located near the entrance to Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Asheville today acts as a jumping-off point to visiting the most visited national park in the U.S. The sheer size of the Biltmore is almost impossible to comprehend. The Biltmore contains over 250 separate rooms, including a dining hall with a 7-story high ceiling, a massive library with over 10,000 books, an indoor swimming pool, a bowling alley, and a working on-the-site vineyard. Built in 1895, the Biltmore was modeled after European chateaus, particularly the grand estates of France. Vanderbilt spared no expense in importing the most expensive materials money could buy and hiring the most skilled craftsmen available. The result was a mansion so mammoth in size that no private residence has ever come remotely close to surpassing it. The construction of the Biltmore required so many workers that even after completion, the estate needed to have permanent living quarters. To help transport all the materials needed to help construct the massive house, a privately owned rail line was built by Vanderbilt into Asheville. The presence of all the craftsmen and the amazing scenery attracted wealthy families from all across the U.S. to build summer homes in Asheville. This ended up transforming Asheville into a major resort town, and today it is the most visited city in the Appalachian Mountains. The Biltmore is a mansion so massive and extravagant that it remains utterly unmatched in scale, remaining by far the largest house ever built in U.S. history more than a century and a half after its completion. Even the Newport Mansion seemed comically small in comparison. The Biltmore was not just a house, it was an enormous palace which was ahead of its time technologically. The Biltmore was one of the first fully electric houses in the country, during a time when many cities didn't even have their own electrical grids. The kitchens had a walk-in refrigerator, and the mansion had its own greenhouses and working elevators. The Biltmore was essentially a modern 5-star hotel which featured technologies which would have seemed like science fiction at the time. As astonishing as the Biltmore was, the world has changed in many ways that has made something as ridiculously impractical from ever being built by a single person again. Even if a billionaire wanted to construct something so massive, they would likely face endless restrictions which would prevent them from doing so. The robber barons of the Victorian era amassed fortunes so enormous they could build several massive estates. However, progressive tax and anti-monopoly laws make it harder for a single family to control such extreme wealth. The sheer excess of the Biltmore led to historical preservation movements. This led to laws to protect older mansions from being demolished, while also preventing more from being built. During the Great Depression, the sweeping economic devastation and social upheaval not only reshaped the financial landscape of America, but also left an undeniable mark on its architectural heritage. Among the casualties of this era were many of the country's grandest mansions, monuments to an earlier age of opulence and extravagance, whose fate was sealed by the economic realities of the 1930s. Mansions such as the White Hall in Pennsylvania, which was one of the largest houses in the U.S., were either demolished or repurposed beyond recognition. The very factors that enable the construction of these amazing houses also sowed the seeds of their downfall. The immense cost of building, and more importantly maintaining these estates, was often sustained by fortunes that could evaporate overnight. When the stock market crashed in 1929, the lavish lifestyles and unchecked spending that had defined an era were abruptly rendered unsustainable. The Great Depression not only curtailed the influx of new wealth, but also forced the once wealthy to confront the harsh realities of a collapsing economy. By the time of the 1930s, most of the old money families of the Victorian era had lost all their wealth. They chose to have many of these houses sold, or in worst cases torn down to make way for modern developments. Without legal protections, many of the mansions of the era could have suffered the same fate as countless other grand homes across the U.S. However, in Newport, Rhode Island, a growing movement to preserve America's architectural heritage emerged and spread throughout the U.S. This led to local and national preservation laws that safeguarded historically significant buildings from demolition and inappropriate redevelopment. These same laws led to the Biltmore House being recognized as the largest mansion in the U.S. and becoming a major tourist attraction. The house is open year-round, but the months of March through May are by far the best to visit, as it is during this time that the famous gardens are in full bloom. Tickets for adults cost around $65, and for $30 extra there's a special behind-the-scenes tour of areas that are off-limits to the public, as well as access to the on-site winery. The estate is massive, so huge in fact that once you enter the gates, there is still more than a 2-minute bus ride until you reach the house. The Biltmore Estate is not just America's largest privately owned house, but it is a major economic engine, particularly during the Christmas season. Each year, the house, which is heavily decorated, attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors who spend their money in the surrounding region. During the holiday season, the Christmas candlelight tours can cost as high as $120 per adult. More than half of the yearly visitors come during the Christmas season. The Biltmore House powers Asheville's entire tourism industry, as many visitors to the house end up staying and dining in the nearby town. In addition to the mansion, the Biltmore Village remains a charming historical district, full of quaint shops, restaurants, and architecture reminiscent of an English village. Commissioned by George Vanderbilt II and designed by renowned architect Richard Morris Hunt, the stunning 1896 church in the center of the village was built for estate workers and remains a landmark of the Biltmore Village. Many of the original worker houses have been repurposed into boutiques, cafes, and art galleries, giving visitors a sense of what life was like for those who worked on the estate. The history of the Biltmore Estate is not simply the story of a grand house, but rather a testament to the ambition, vision, and influence of George Washington Vanderbilt II. Built as the largest private home in America, the Biltmore House was more than an extravagant display of wealth. It was an experiment in refined living, scientific forestry, and cultural enrichment. From its Gilded Age origins to its transformation into one of the most visited historic sites in the country, the estate has continuously adapted while preserving its historical integrity. What began as Vanderbilt's personal retreat in the North Carolina mountains evolved into a pioneering model of land stewardship and conservation. The estate's contributions to sustainable forestry laid the foundation for modern forest management and national conservation policy. Moreover, Biltmore's economic impact on Asheville and its surrounding region cannot be overstated. Originally an isolated estate, it played a significant role in shaping the city into a center for tourism, luxury, and cultural heritage. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to stay tuned for more history videos. Sincerely, The History Pilgrim.